In this video, I'm going to show you how I made my very first program. Okay, so I started programming a few weeks ago, and this is the first real program that I made. And by real program, I mean that I didn't just make it for practice, but I made it for an actual practical use that I needed a program for. And what this does is it creates this list of all the chores that I need to do in the house. And it stores them by the days of the week. And now here's how I made it. So I made it in C. So the first thing you see is this array that contains the names of all the chores that I want to be included here. And the second one is the day counter. And what the day counter does is that if it goes down to 0, on that day that chore needs to be done. But the day max variable does is that that's the number of days that will pass between doing that chore again. So for example, 0 here means that I'm going to schedule shopping on the first day, which is a Monday. And number 3 means that I will schedule another instance of shopping 3 days later. So there are two functions, the scheduler and the day end. I will talk about those a bit later. And the first thing that the main function does is that it makes another array, which is just the days of the week. And then the program goes into the loop. And what this loop does is it executes 7 times because it does the same thing for each day of the week. The first thing it does is that it prints out the day of the week. And then it gets another loop, and this loop executes the scheduler a number of times. And I didn't talk about this. The number of variable is just the number of tasks that are in the system. So it executes them a number of times, 12 times in this particular case. And what the scheduler actually does is that it's an if statement. It checks if the day counter is 0, and if it's 0, then it prints out the name of the task. And then sets the day counter back to day max. When the program executes to this point, we would have the word Monday printed and whatever the tasks are that were initially set to 0. And then it would move on, it would print an empty line, and there is another loop here, and this will also execute the number of times that marks the amount of tasks that there are in the system, and it will execute the day end function. And what this function does is that it's also an if statement, and what it checks is that if the day counter is not 0, then it will decrease the day counter by. So this is all the program currently does. I would like to add more functionality to it later on. The main problem with this program in its current state is that currently it will only print this exact same list every time I run it. So the first new feature that I would like to add to it is to move it to the next week automatically. What I would have to do now is to just rewrite all these numbers. Now I know that probably all of this is not optimal, probably not the best way to do this, but that wasn't really the goal with this exercise. It was more to make something that's actually useful for me and make it so more or less on my own. So that's it for this video. See you later.